Hello, this is Taha.
This is Anaina,
This is Movie Masala.
and we're here to yap at you about films we watched recently,
And today we're doing.
the Oscar nominations, and one of the Oscar nominees, The Voice of Hind Rajab.
Okay, so let's start with the nominations because I think that's a easier thing to talk to, a less important thing to talk about.
And also less emotionally
hard,
taxing.
taxing.
Yeah.
So obviously starting off Sinners, 16 nominations, breaking an all-time record.
What can we even say? We have very publicly on multiple occasions expressed our love, and you more than ever have expressed your love for this film. All that I can say is thank God, and I hope they win at least 3 to 4 categories. It would be really disappointing if they were the most nominated movie in history and didn't win anything. But you know what? I wouldn't put it past the Oscars, but I really hope that is not the case.
Someone did point out the Sinners' achievement would be just being nominated so many times, and the Academy is not really going to give it that many awards. Again, maybe it's just hope talking and not necessarily
realistic.
Yeah, me being actually realistic. But I really do hope they get those nominations because even if you remove casting, which is a new category that came out this year, they still got 15 nominations discarding that. So that's incredible. And oh my God, I literally did an audible gasp when Delroy Lindo got nominated because I thought that was so deserved.
Oh, for sure. He has not been nominated throughout the award seasons for anything else. And I genuinely think, I was watching this film again recently with some friends and some relatives, and genuinely their favorite moments of the film were when Delroy Lindo was on screen. They were cackling, they were gasping, they were when he was on screen and when he was, giving his all to the scene, really chewing up the scenery. That was the moments that got the most response out of them. It just goes to show how good of an actor he is and how well he did that character. So yeah, I agree. I'm really glad to see him.
That's literally so true. Yeah. Also, this is a side tangent of the podcast. Someone pointed out to me how we both say so true and 100% so much. And we cite this out like the same person.
Hey, so true.
The allegations are true.
100%.
With that being said, second thing that again is the most biggest thing to come out of that is F1's nomination for Best Picture.
Yeah.
How? Why? What?
As I was reading the list, you see F1 in the Best Picture category. There are certain criteria, but I think for a picture to be in Best Picture, it also needs to have a certain number of other nominations in other categories. And I don't know if this is a hard and fast rule or not, but I just feel like that should be a given. Yeah. I was scrolling endlessly to find the other categories F1 was nominated in, and none of those are of any consequence.
Okay, that's a bit mean to say sound and other categories are of no consequence. I wouldn't say that.
No, I don't mean of consequence in the sense that those categories are not important to the production of film. I mean of no consequence to the creation of F1 into the Best Picture category. F1 specifically.
Genuinely, this is an acting of this is the same thing they did with Top Gun, but it's not. Top Gun Maverick is genuinely a better film than this in every regard and deserve to be on that list. Or this is their Wicked or Avatar The Way of Water. Both, again, I would say are better films than F1.
No, for sure. People were, I saw some comments that were the first 2 Avatars were nominated in a bunch of different categories. How the fuck is the third one not?
It's not good.
Well, yeah, but also, like you said, is F1 good?
Yeah, exactly. Especially when there are so many deserving films this year. International cinema, if you look, we talked about Homebound and The Glass Worker here when we were talking about the best films that are being submitted for the best international films. And when there's such a strong international film contenders this year, you could have Sirat, The Voice of Hind Rajab, which we're going to talk about. There's just multiple other films that you could put there. I'm just saying.
Also, on that note, from the international feature category, you put it was just an accident and then not put Jafar Panahi as the best director. Again, it just like with a lot of these categories and with a lot of these kind of like single nominations, in F1's case, just bad ones. But in the case of it was just an accident and the Voice of Hind Rajab, etc., and Sirat, it's like when you put an international feature film in just that category, you are reducing it to that category of international, quote unquote, right? And it just so happens that 90% of the times the singularly nominated in that category tend to be non-European, quote unquote, international features, which is just disappointing to see.
Yeah, this is like a weird year for me where I am like looking at this and being like, I don't think any one film feels like insanely that good. Again, I personally still love Sinners and think it should win. That being said, when you think about the conversations happening and everything, there's no clear front runner in terms of films, I feel, this year. It could be Sinners, it could probably be one battle after another. But like honestly, in the night, if like Chloe Zhao wins and like Jesse Buckley wins, Hamnet becomes like a strong contender as well. Anything could genuinely like take this. It doesn't feel as strong. Probably are sure Timothy Chalamet is taking best actor. Like most likely he's the front contender for that. So it's just such a toss up.
Because of that, I don't think there will be any major quote unquote upsets.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily that there is no clear frontrunner, because it doesn't mean that all the films nominated are equally not good. It just means they're equally good.
Yeah, I agree.
In that scenario, there can't be really any upsets except for if F1 wins Best Picture, which is just such a...
Which is... You throw something. Oh no, I can't handle that. I would not be able to handle that. That would be insane. Like that will not happen. That's like such an insane thing.
It just feels like such a like out there, out of the realm of possibility thing to happen that I think by the time we get to the actual night, people are going to have forgotten that F1 is even nominated in that category.
They should. Because the very fact that that is a possibility is insane. It should not happen. It makes it sad.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I don't mind this year's like nomination. I think they did some really good things. Again, Delroy Lindo being a great pick here. I don't mind any of the international films selected because they're all like top. Again, I've not watched most of them. I really want to watch the other one, Sentimental Value, Secret Agent Sarat, and it was just an accident. But I know all of them are great. I think majority, this is a solid list of nominations. Even like it was just an accident, also got into Best Original Screenplay, which was good to see. But just F1. It's just F1 that just feels like, why? Why did you do this to yourself?
For sure. And I also feel like there are certain categories where we know who's going to win. And that is any category that K-pop Demon Hunters is nominated in.
Listen, you said no upsets. I think the biggest upset could be if Little Emily and the character of Rain wins over K-pop Demon Hunters. Like last year, Flo winning over the Wild Robot.
Oh, this is true. I'd forgotten that had happened. All right. Little Amelie is very, very cute. Having watched like a lot of clips and like done some promo for them. It's very cute. It's very adorable. It's very wholesome. But it did not have the cultural phenomena hold that K-pop Demon Hunters did. And it wasn't it had that whole like undeservingly. That was a genuinely good film.
Yeah.
In
100%.
like so many ways.
Oh, also my last thing with that is Avatar Fire and Ash also being in costumes, and I'm like, what, the CGI ones? Listen, Avatar should 100% be in best VFX every year that it comes out. But what? I need to see what was submitted for costumes. I like sometimes maybe there's a reason. And like I know the Avatar films do a lot of like background prop work to give the artist reference. But I'm like, how much of that is showing up in the film? None of it. What costumes are you talking about?
Wait, I'm just scrolling to the costumes category. Wait, where is costumes? I just see makeup and hairstyling.
And Wicked not being there. Wicked not being there is also so, like such a... They did not want Wicked at all.
Yeah, Avatar, Fire and Ice, Frankenstein, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, and Sinners.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I want to see the submissions for these because I'm not really sure what's going on. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see on the night, like you said, how it goes for the major categories, like all the acting and the director and the best picture, obviously. But I also want to see like stuff like scripts and writing and stuff, because those are always really interesting to me to see like whether the same people keep getting it or not.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll see. We'll see.
But yeah.
So we talked about best international films quite a lot, and the one we're talking about today, The Voice of Hind Rajab.
هنود انت شو اسم العيلة؟ شو اسمك الكامل؟ هند رجب حمادة؟ طب يلا ماشي. طب تخبي تحت الكراسي.
Like we preface saying, it's a difficult film to talk about, not because of, anything other than the fact that it is completely emotionally like absorbs you.
It is, again, not because of anything to do with necessarily critical reasons, but only the source material, which is harrowing, to put it extremely lightly.
100%. To just like kind of put it into context, The Voice of Hind Rajab is kind of like a docudrama film. It's written and directed by Kothar Ben Hania, and it's based off of the real life incident that took place in January 2024, where a 6-year-old Palestinian girl of the name Hind Rajab was trapped in a car with a bunch of her dead family members and was surrounded by Israeli tanks who were basically just firing and shooting during the invasion of Gaza. The film follows the response of the Palestine Red Crescent Society to emergency call placed by her, and kind of how the whole day proceeds while she is trapped in this car. And we do not see her, but we see rather the first respondents from the Red Crescent who are kind of trying to help her and get aid to her.
And also, like, it features the audio recordings from the actual call, which again add to this authenticity of the film. And again, it's weird to talk about this film in any way as a film. What I mean by that, because the events of this film are just so, again, like, any word I want to use feels like it just doesn't have the potency I needed to convey the depth of like tragedy this is.
I agree. And I think that's where this is going to sound so awful, reservations about the film also come from, because it's a completely emotionally devastating film. And I think for me, that was almost all the way due to the fact that they used the original recordings that the Red Crescent Society had saved of Hind kind of speaking to these first responders, and in some instances the first responders kind of speaking to her as well. And as someone who remembers listening to those recordings when they were coming out in 2024, I could not listen to them the whole way back, right? Because they were just too devastating and they just made my blood boil. I think what I like about this film first is that it makes you sit through that. It makes you sit through the discomfort of having to constantly listen to a child plead for help and then not get it. And then it does a really good job of like putting in opposition that constant pleading voice that gets to you as it gets to the first responders. And then the absolute like ridiculousness of the bureaucracy that they have to go through, which is also depicted in the film in a dramatized way, to get her the aid that she is pleading for. So the film kind of sets up that opposition really, really well.
Yeah, I agree. I think the actors like Mutaz Malay, Saja Kilani, like on the others, really capture so many multiple ways in which the film is pulling you emotionally. Like, I don't think any like character in this film is not fully trying to just save that girl, right? But you understand, for example, when Mehdi is like I don't want other people to die right now. So many other, they have children. You understand him as well. And again, the villain is none of these people here. The villain, again, these words feel like meaningless in this real world context. It's just the genocide and the oppressors who are like causing this, right? It's the IDF. It is the Israeli government in this case who are like letting this happen. And it's not asking you to do anything but just bear witness and just sit with it and just like take into account how insane what you're witnessing is. Because every time I was watching it, I would just keep reminding myself, this is a 6-year-old girl, and I would not be able to like stop crying.
That was exactly my experience of it as well. It does all of those things really, really well. But then, like I said, my reservations with it were that it was made so quickly after the incident happened. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this is like a problem with the film. It's just saying something that I'm like kind of hesitant about, because obviously it's an important film, right? But the quick turnaround, which feels like such an awful thing to say, of this film, it kind of makes me go, what are we using this story for? Are we making it into a story, first of all?
Mm-hmm.
And what purpose is that serving? Is that serving a purpose for the benefit of the larger meaning at the moment we're in right now, which is to not just draw attention towards the genocide happening, but to also actively help? Because I feel like, especially in like the art world and, you know, the film world, just drawing attention at this point is not enough. It's been 2 years since the incident of this film actually happened, but nothing realistically has changed, right? So if we are making this film and we are watching this film and we are distributing it and this and that, what are we doing? And also, I think a lot of my reservation was also based off of the fact that I don't know whether Hind's family was involved in the making, which it seems like it is, especially her mom.
You do see footage directly from her at the end as well.
Yes, because you don't want to be making this kind of film without consent from the people it directly impacts, right? So I was glad to see that Hind's mom had like a say in it, and perhaps even one of the final says in it. So I did really appreciate that. And one of the production companies that has produced it is Watermelon Pictures, and they are like a production company that is consistently committed to, you know, the production of films and media that, you know, helps and supports people in Palestine, which is great to see. But what surprised me and I want to know about is the number of big Hollywood names that are like associated with this film.
Oh yeah, I haven't like really dug around to understand like what caused like people like Brad Pitt to end up being an executive producer on this film. I want to assume the best because, you know, in a world as pessimistic as ours, I'll take some niceness from time to time, you know.
Agreed.
Doesn't hurt. And I think it helps knowing context of No Other Land, which again won last year, but struggled to get distribution regardless of its win. It is just a step up to be like, I think if with executive producer credits from like big names like Brad Pitt, Jonathan Glazer, who else was there?
Joaquin Phoenix, Rooney Mara, Alfonso Cuarón, Spike Lee, the list goes on.
So it just helps the film's status and gets it those like eyeballs that it needs. Because you're right. At the end of the day, you are right. Like action speaks more powerful than words. Like at the end of the day, as the adage goes. And I hope this film spurs people into action is more. But again, like you said, with even the current ceasefire, it just acts like a condoned excuse to just keep doing the same thing. You need people to still remember that this is happening and still like consider the reality of the situation.
I don't think that like this film being made or being produced by these big names, or, you know, even being nominated for like an Oscar should absolve these people of the continued duty. And not just these people, us as well, of the continued kind of
100%.
responsibility.
Every one of us as well.
Responsibility we have for sure. I don't think there is any way to talk about this film in purely like in a formal sense of like, the dialogue this, the cinematography this, the this. Obviously, all of that exists, right, in this film because it is a film at the end of the day. It's not a documentary. And even if it was a documentary, all of those things would still matter. But I feel like the political and social stakes of this film so largely outweigh any other conversation about it, which might be a good thing, might be a bad thing, depending on how you want to look
Fair
at
enough.
it.
I see what you mean. That being said, I want to talk about how this film uses the language of cinema to its credit in certain places, where I felt the cinematography really did help with like the constant movement, the close-ups and stuff like that, which created a really great sense of like involving you in that place, because all of this film takes place almost exclusively in that one call center and like a few, like honestly few square meters. So just that really adds to this feeling of like you're there and you are trapped in a sense in which they are as well. I think that was great. One thing that I didn't think that worked for me was like this trying to weave in and out using phones of like real world and like film footage, which I think just ended
Mm-hmm.
up distracting me more than realistically doing anything. And also, I was quite confused by the decision that they were playing a shooting game when he tries to calm Mehdi
Yeah.
down. It was tonally so jarring for me, and I was just confused by that. Maybe the film's trying to say something for me, but it just didn't connect with me, and I was just confused tonally with what that was.
No, I agree. I agree. And just to kind of add on, I think the film does a really good job of, like you said, making use of the space in the sense that every single like character keeps getting pushed closer and closer or in smaller and smaller spaces as, you know, the time passes, which is like a really good physical representation of kind of tension and the kind of just helplessness that is like building up and that they are experiencing. But again, one of the things that I was a little bit about, some of the dialogues felt too concise or too polished. And I know this is kind of like a rewritten, dramatized version, but I still feel like letting some of the rawness of natural
The
communication.
messiness, even in some ways.
Exactly. Yeah, even the messiness. Not just to have the messiness kind of expressed with like anger and frustration with like loud voices in performance, but also in the words that they are using and saying. I think I would have appreciated that a little bit more to kind of just help feel the dramatization of it even further.
Again, overall, it just encapsulates the overall helplessness of the situation. Like you said, speaking of that helplessness, it just encapsulates the entire. Again, I don't even want to say 3 years. It's just been so much longer. And how, again, the bureaucracy it captures, how it captures the helplessness, how it captures the injustice, I think, really, really well at the end. Because honestly, despite me knowing how the story ends, I was still praying for her to be safe.
The same, like I knew what was going to happen, and yet, you know, when that ambulance starts moving and it gets so close to her, you're like, thank God. And then even though you know the ambulance is not going to get to her, when it doesn't, kind of getting hit by that all over again. I think the helplessness of the people in the film is very easily and like effectively transferred onto every single person in the audience as well. Every single person in the cinema hall with me watching was in shambles and tears. Like not even at the end of it, just throughout the film because of
Oh yeah, I
puts
don't
you in.
think anyone with humanity can watch that and not have that reaction. Just ending on the fact that as I was walking out, I think it was me and just one other woman there, and she looked at me and I think she was like, "You okay?" And I was just like, "I don't think that's a film you're meant to be okay after watching."
And I think that sums it up really, really well.
I do hope that it does win at that. Again, not that that means anything realistically, but just a nice thing to hope for. Oh, positiveness. So, yeah, those are our thoughts. Thank you for tuning in. This podcast is produced solely by us with musical assets from Pixabay. If you enjoyed this, please do share it. See you again next time.
Bye bye.